Hello and welcome to the Exponential Potential Podcast, helping you thrive in times of change, with your hosts Claire Oatway and Jennifer Evans, aka ZenGen, along with expert guests sharing with you uplifting, inspiring, and insightful stories, groundbreaking, rule-shaking ideas, fresh, new, exciting perspective, and truly transformational tools and top tips, as well as generous gifts for you, our listeners, on an array of topics, all designed to help you thrive in all areas of life. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Exponential Potential. And hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Hi, Claire. I'm really well. It's good to be here. I'm excited about what 2023 has to offer, and our season 2 of Exponential Potential: Thriving in Times of Change. It's going to be better, bigger, and just juicier, I think, as we've sort of felt our way, as we've kind of felt our way round and got into our groove a bit, I think.
I know, juicier. That's a brilliant word to describe it, for sure. It's before we get into the topic, which is a very juicy topic in its own right. I think it's so exciting. We've done so much in season 1, but we've been bold. We've taken the steps. We've had some amazing guests. If you're a regular listener, you'll know. And we just want to be more powerful, more intentional, more impactful, or even more.
Yes, all of that. Yes, powerful, impactful, beneficial, and bringing our listeners as much value as we can, keeping the interest and engagement going. So I think 2023 is going to be an awesome year.
Yeah,
for so many people as well, because we're done with the COVID and the everything hitting the fan. It's I think, and that's what we're talking about today, is being in alignment, and how do you stay in that zone? What is it? How you stay in it despite all the chaos, uncertainty, and craziness that's going on in the world. I think people are sort of realizing it's the new norm.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's one of the payoffs of being so connected, in a way, is that you have this flux, this change. Things move. It's almost like just going back to some of the earlier episodes, almost like those examples of having lots of family all together at once. You know that's not going to be a calm affair. There's going to be raucous, there's going to be inappropriate, it's going to be stressful, but it's going to be so much fun. And I think that level of vibration, that level of excitement is definitely where we are. And in the work that I do with businesses, it's very much around, so actually, you can't guarantee stability and certainty. You can build it in as much as possible, but the world has shifted at a business level and at an individual level, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we can't wait. And we will get into the topic in a minute, but it's a really important point. We can't wait for things to change. I'll wait when COVID's done. I'll do something. Or when we have a new prime minister or a new president, or when this is finished, when my kids have grown up, when I'm after I've been on holiday, when the Christmas season is done. We put all these reasons and excuses in the way, and what change comes from within. So no matter what is going on the outside, it's up to you as an individual to start to make those changes and to stop putting your life on hold, to wait for the perfect environment, because the only way you can get to the perfect environment is when you look, you come from within and you take control and you stop giving your power away and you feel empowered to make those changes without having to wait for things externally to change. Stumped. This
is the beginning of the episode. So if you haven't guessed by now, we are covering alignment today, and how important alignment and aligning with your purpose is to bring about success and abundance and that growth, to bring flow and joy. And yes, we are going to be going deep, and yet we are going to be giving lots of practical tips about what you can do day in, day out to bring back to alignment. How can you connect with your soul's purpose, and how can you keep that present in your mind each day? It's an exciting topic to lead with, and we've talked a lot about possibility and potential that can come from being in alignment. So we are in for a ride.
And I think one of the first questions to maybe answer is talk a bit about what is alignment, because I think there are a different level, and there's certainly different levels of alignment. But for you, Claire, how do you see when somebody says alignment? What does it mean for you?
For me, so I'm always one for a metaphor or a description, and alignment comes. I'm going to use my body as an example. It comes from posture. That when you are centered, when your head's straight, when your shoulders back, when your body's straight, that you're quite forceful. It's something you feel in your body, and automatically it starts to shift your mood. And that's almost a metaphor for alignment. Your day-to-day activities, your behaviors, your phrases, your self-talk, that's all like kind of a slouch. But when it's connected to a deeper purpose, when it's connected to what you want to achieve as opposed to what you don't want to achieve in life, then you are showing up in full force. And I think for many people, you spend a lot of time searching for purpose and alignment, and kind of just going through the machinations of day to day, and not really connecting with how powerful you can be when you actually connect with the impact that you want to have on the world. So for example, whether or not you fit within a business anymore, if you're going in the same direction, if you're aligned in direction, certainly as a leader, alignment has been how I encourage, how I tell stories, how I support change to happen, to align to a shared vision, a shared goal, and do that with other people. But for me also, it's so important that you come through from that aligned place.
So it's lining up or being aligned with a set of values and a way of being. Yes. Yeah. And for me, if we can go deeper as well than that, and we talk about being aligned. So being aligned with who you truly are, which is kind of your values. So stripping away the barriers and blocks that we put in our way, the fears that we have, the wanting to feel safe. So stripping away all those protective layers and going deep into who we truly are, which is another episode for sure. But who we truly are in sort of a very brief nutshell, I think everybody, for me, my personal belief, this is what resonates with me, this is how I align, this is my value set, my set of values. So for me, I believe that every single one of us is a being of love and light. We are of source energy. We have source energy and the power and the knowledge and wisdom of source energy within us, within every single cell of our bodies. And that's when we come from a place of love and light, when we come from that place of our hearts, following our hearts, following our soul purpose, that's when we're in true alignment. And I can't wait to, just jumping forward, I can't wait for you to listen to our episode with Jennifer Huff, where we delve deep into the multidimensional DNA, superpowers of DNA. So that's really delves into who we truly are. But I think being in alignment simply is coming from love. Coming from that place of love, compassion, and kindness.
Okay. So it's being connected back into that root, that source, almost. And being connected to a deeper power than alignment with a vision is, yeah.
Yes, but what you're saying, Claire, is so good and powerful as well, because if you've got a set of values that come from love, your values are your alignment. So it's all interconnected. It's just different levels of alignment.
Yeah,
and I've got chills, and my body is reacting to this quite strangely. It's when we talked about body before, it's kind of full of all this energy. Yeah. So yes, I think that's a good description of alignment. I'd love to hear what listeners have to say as well. So anyone that's listening to this, please feel free to comment as to what alignment looks like, or what alignment is for you, or how you see alignment, because we all have different perceptions of that as well.
Yeah. And sometimes it can come through, when people change jobs, or they take an unexpected leap into a different role or a different career, and then all of a sudden it feels like they were born to be in that place. So someone's been in a corporate environment for absolutely ages, and then set up as a landscape architect, a completely different role, but you can see how much more alive they are, how much more vibrant they are, how much more they have to give, because they're in the right place.
Yes, and I think when we change into something new, whether that's a job, a business, a relationship, a new way of being, then there are certain behaviors that have to match that. So, for example, if you're looking for a really amazing relationship that's connected and fulfilled and respectful and loving and all those wonderful things, which I was several years ago, after 2 divorces and, very unfulfilling, disconnected relationships, I realized for me to have that relationship, my behavior had to match that. So if I wanted somebody to respect me, I had to respect myself first.
Yeah.
If I wanted someone to love me, I had to love myself first. So there are certain behaviors which put you in, that line you up for success, whatever success looks like for you, whether that's a wonderful relationship, whether that's a successful business or career.
Yeah.
So your behavior needs to line up and be in alignment with what your desires and aspirations and goals are.
To explain to anyone listening, because you'd be able to see it when you're watching the YouTube, you talk about how you've got goosebumps. I think we're inspiring Enzo to come up and spend time with us in this conversation. So if I'm fidgeting, it's because the dog's just sat on my lap.
Let's have a little look at Enzo.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's such a cute little dashhound.
Yeah,
oh, he's cute.
Yeah, but again, kind of one of the things that strikes me around the conversation is that your purpose can be quite fluid, really, and we've been a bit fixated that people have only one purpose in life, and I think that's because we're still not going deep enough. Kind of, we're still defining people by their jobs or by a talent or by a skill, and not necessarily going deep enough to look at the values, the purpose around beauty or growth or compassion or expressing love or having an impact. We're still at the wrong level. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think we attach what's our purpose. We attach that to a job, as you say. A lot of people will whatever my purpose is, that needs to be my job. But again, looking at it from a very simplistic point of view, our purpose is linked to coming from love. Our purpose is to have compassion, to love, to contribute to others, to come from that place of having grace for ourselves as well. But ultimately our purpose is not, you're absolutely right, it's not linked to a job or well, I have to find my purpose. But purpose is about being a loving beam of light, or it could be you're a catalyst. That could be if you want to go into a more spiritual level, your predetermined or your choice of what you came here to be. You could be here to be a catalyst. Especially when we look at politics, we see catalytical events happening all the time. So I think people sort of can get really stuck on finding their purpose, and it is actually, our purpose can be linked to our natural abilities. Some of the abilities we're born with, or it's in our DNA, it's coded in our DNA, our superpowers, if you like. And if you think of somebody that's they're born with talent, Einstein, Beethoven, those sorts of people, their purpose wasn't, so Beethoven's purpose wasn't necessarily to write the music. His purpose was to bring joy to other people. Yeah, that's what feels within, that's how I see it anyway.
Yeah, and kind of other individuals of that ilk. So Da Vinci, incredible artist, incredible sculptor, incredible inventor, almost as a conduit of inspiration. It's just that's what I would attribute his purpose being. So what kind of questions can people ask themselves to, if they are willing to go deep, what kind of questions could people ask themselves to understand their purpose?
I think if we think back when we're little, when we think back of the things that brought us most joy, and the things that we're good at, the things that and so a lot of people as adults, we forget what brings us joy. So by looking back as a child, looking back through earlier parts of your life will help. So I always used to love helping people from an early age. I was always helping people feel good, feel better. With my mum, I used to take my mum's migraines away through healing. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was drawn to doing that. I remember this girl who was new to the class you could see she felt very uncomfortable and awkward. She was a lot taller than the rest of the class. And I went to her and I sort of helped her feel part of the group. I brought her in, I engaged with her, and I helped her feel more comfortable. So from a very early age, I knew, I was always drawn to helping other people. Like you say, Da Vinci or engineers, they usually like to be fixing things. And my brother, he was from a very early age, he used to copy my older brothers and be fixing cars. He's now a marine engineer, a mechanic. So, your childhood gives you ideas. But as an adult, I think it's what you enjoy doing. It's what has you leaning forward. It's what lifts you up. It's what makes your heart sing. And I think one of the ways to do that is to start journaling. First of all, you have to slow down. You have to create space. You can't come at something like this being really, really busy with the busy and rushing around and not giving yourself time or space. We can't do it from a stressed, overwhelmed point of view. So as you mentioned before, being present, having presence, slowing down, breathing, nature, and we talk about nature quite a lot. Both of us love being out in nature. But nature really is an incredibly inspiring place. It helps us become more present much easier. And because we're part of nature, we're of nature, we're not separate. When we give ourselves that time and space and we tune into nature, we're connected. But when we tune into nature, it just brings us that deep sense of peace. And from there is a good place to ask those questions, to, write them down or just ask, what is it I love? What is it do I notice that I'm leaning into? There's some great tools that you can use, like vision quests and vision meditations. And that's something that I do with my clients. We do quite a lot of visioning. And you can go for a vision walk. So it's like a walking vision meditation where you have questions, you come up with the questions, and then you go and sit by a tree and allow the answers to come. But you have to create that peace, inner quiet in your mind to be able to hear the answers, the ideas, the solutions that come to you.
It's almost like, how do you clear a muddy puddle? You can't agitate it with a stick necessarily. You just can't stir
exactly.
It up. That's only going to make things worse. You need to just let it settle, let the dirt settle, and you can see clearly through the water. And ironically, the time when you are feeling stress is often the time when you are out of alignment, or whether that's from an external influence kind of shifting you away. You know that you're unsettled because you're not in alignment because of a company's values or a co-worker's values or a boss's values, or you've got that clash there, or you're being asked and pushed to spend more time away from your family, or away, you kind of don't have the opportunity to grow. And sometimes we attribute it to the immediate relationships, not necessarily what's really going on underneath it. We try to treat the calls there and then without we try to treat the symptoms and not the cause, probably the better way to put it.
Yes. And you look outside of yourself for other things to blame as well, which is kind of what you're saying, isn't it? So it's that, and usually it's this. It's usually here. Yes, and I think, as you said, clearing, it's like instead of focusing on the dirt and the mud, allowing it to settle. But one of the other things you can do, if you could fill it with clear water and wash instead of digging the mud out, wash the mud away by refocusing your attention and filling it with light, filling it with fun, filling it with gratitude, filling it with joy. So choosing where you put your focus and focusing on what is working, focusing on what does feel good. And when I'm talking about feeling good, I'm talking about what feels good in your heart, not what feels good to your ego, which are two different things as well. And that, again, when we're coming from ego, we're never going to be in alignment. It's because our ego wants, you look at the people that are in power, but the people that want that power or are power orientated, they're coming from their ego. They want power for the sake of having power, not necessarily to do something good with it. Or they want money and they want to be rich for the sake of having money and being rich, not necessarily being a philanthropist and doing something helpful with that money. I think talking, with money, if you want to be rich, for the sake of being rich, it's coming from ego. It's coming from a place of lack, thinking that there's not enough, rather than looking at wealth from a point of view, well, how can I contribute with my wealth? So that's an alignment coming from that place, and not being in alignment is coming from a place of, I want more money, I want more money, I want more work, coming from a place of greed and ego. Two very different, wanting the same thing, but having two very different perspectives on it and reasons why.
And I just want to pull through, because what you said previously around filling up the puddle with clear water in terms of the gratitude, I think that's too important a point to miss. Really, it's so key. And one of the things that we want to do is empower all of our listeners to be able to act in alignment. And sometimes you just don't notice how often you are in alignment, how often things are lining up. So paying attention to when you are getting that, when you're getting the reinforcement in terms of that alignment, whether that's the relationships you have with other people in the office or with your family, just the small markers are always there. And gratitude is such an important discipline to highlight that and to recognize that and to bring you back to that sense of self.
Yes, and I think gratitude is one of the things to help you get in alignment as well, when you're feeling down on yourself or you're feeling quite negative, or before Christmas I was not in a good place, I was quite poorly, but I also leading up to that, it's because I was working too hard, and I was making things really difficult for myself, and it took my body really shouted at me to say, Jen, you need to stop. And it slowed me right down, and I was quite poorly for a while because I wasn't listening, and I wasn't in the space to be able to feel and notice what I have that was working, and what I had to be grateful for, and what I had to really appreciate. So I had to bring myself back into my regular practices and rituals that I wasn't doing, and focus on gratitude. And it can start with the little things. It always starts with the little things that you're grateful for. And that helped bring me back into alignment, and again, feeling my connection to nature and to the bigger picture, to source energy, to universal energy, to God, whatever it is you'd like to call it. But the gratitude piece was the start of that, and it was key. And every day I do gratitude. Every day I do gratitude, and you do as well. It's one of your things. It's one of the easiest things we can do.
And I'm just thinking as well in terms of everyday things that people can do, or projects that you can pick up at work. I've worked with many teams, and sometimes the most talented and creative individuals are also the most frustrated. and it's just like, well, bring your ideas through, bring them through. As a leader, one of the easiest things for me is to say yes. Yes, give that a try. So if someone says, actually, I'm frustrated with this, I really want to pursue this element of my work, or I want to do this bit of problem solving, or I think I'd like to explore maybe how social media has an impact. I'm really passionate about how we come across, and I really want to amplify that, and to start to expand your roles, to bring your purpose into work, which helps you to come alive. It helps you to express your ideas. It helps you to express your true self. It can be really refreshing as a leader, as a boss, to have people who are in alignment, who come forward and say, I want to. It's like, great, let me help you. Because I know that the more you have a team around you who are who feel safe enough and inspired enough to bring that into work, kind of the more energy they bring to those around them, the more energy they bring to the business around them, and it just multiplies. But it does need to start with the courage of asking or suggesting and saying, what about this? I want to bring this to the table. You'd often be surprised at how receptive the group around you is. And then one of the pieces of work that I do with my private clients is around identifying values and purpose. And there's a few easy questionnaires that are out there that can, identify, what your strongest values are. And it won't be a surprise to you to know that growth is a very strong value of mine, and adventure as well, as elements. And so there are ways that I examine my daily practice, how I'm spending my money, how I'm spending my time and my life force, my energy, and whether or not those are aligned to what my values are. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing, but as long as you feel like you're contributing something towards what those values are, then you're there.
Yeah. So awareness in everything is so important, isn't it? Having that awareness and mindfulness of how you are and what you're, like you say, where you're spending your time, what you're spending your money on. How are you as a being, as a human? How are you interacting with your relationships, with your loved ones, with your colleagues, with friends, family, all those? How are you being to yourself? How are you treating yourself as well? And I just want to go back to gratitude for a minute as well. I think part of that relationship with everybody, with your loved ones, with your work colleagues, is showing them gratitude and appreciation, not being afraid to do that. I found the more I do that, and again, meaning it, not just saying it for the sake of saying it, but really coming from my heart and really meaning it, it has such a positive impact. And you find that then they reflect that back to you as well. And that will then raise the vibration, and it will help put you all in alignment, because you're coming from that place of gratitude. And gratitude and love are very, very similar in terms, when you really truly feel gratitude, and you don't just sort of say, oh, I'm thankful for being alive today, or I'm thankful for the sun shining today, or I'm thankful for this. But if you delve deep and really feel it, and when you feel it, you know when you feel it, because you smile. So I'm really, really grateful and appreciative of you, Claire, and all the things that you do behind the scenes with this podcast, and the relationship that we have. I feel so blessed, and I really appreciate it, and I am filled with gratitude. And you know that you feel it because you're smiling, and your body smiles with you.
Yeah.
And that feeling is very close. Gratitude and love are very, very close. So that's when you know that you're in gratitude, when you feel it in your body. And I highly recommend anybody that wants to feel good, that wants to raise their vibration, that wants to be in alignment, one of the easiest things to do is have a gratitude journal and do it every day. 1 to 3 things every day. And feel it. Create that space and that time to reflect and feel it. It's a great way to start your morning.
Yeah. And I think this, what we're playing with as well, or what's coming through quite strongly for me, is that we're playing with both ends of the spectrum of time. So all of the little markers that are here that are going through, and also the kind of life that you live. Again, one of the strongest exercises that I do is roll forward by 10 years or 20 years, or the end of your life, and look back to this moment, to recognize that you have a much deeper, longer purpose at hand than you realize. Mm-hmm. So it's what we're describing is pay attention to the very small things, and also have a view to legacy and longevity, and kind of what you're truly here to do. Those are two quite distinct ends of the time spectrum, but either of them ignore the noise, ignore the in-betweens, the hurdles, the obstacles. They kind of encourage you to stay aligned to that longer term goal.
Yeah, and that's staying, again, that's sort of staying within your power, isn't it? Rather than allowing distractions to take you out. It's having some tools to use. So I think so that you do stay on track and you do stay in alignment. So some of the things that I'd like to share, some of the favorite things that I do and these need to be done on a daily basis. They really do. But they need to be enjoyable for you. That needs to be something that sings to you. And we're all different. So it's about finding those little practices that suit you. And I help my clients do that. Find things that they wouldn't have necessarily thought of, but finding things to help you stay in alignment every day. However that works for you. But there are some that are very, like gratitude is one. If you love nature, being out in nature, or at least sitting and looking out at nature, listening to the birds singing, and getting yourself present, doing something that you love to do, that you enjoy, that's creative, and finding something that's creative. And creativity can be anything. Creativity is basically creating something new from scratch, or doing something different that's not been done. So creating could be baking, could be writing, could be playing an instrument, could be moving furniture around and reorganizing your office even. It could be putting together a new look. There's so many different ways of being creative, not just arts and crafts, but so many different things where you can be creative. As an engineer, you can be creative, I'm sure you can come up with some as well, looking at the way a team works together and putting, how can that team work differently? How can that team be more creative? Slowing down, as I said before, breathing, just slowing down and doing some deep breathing to help ground yourself. Movement is really important as well. So dancing is creative, but, dancing is really important to move the body. Being silly.
Yeah,
and
or as I say,
playful.
Play is absolutely key. And one of the things that I do is, it's just a silly game around creating ideas and services. And so you take two random words, like motorbike and marshmallow is one of my favorite ones, and then you say to a group of people, right, Come on, I want to hear your services and your products to do with the motorbikes and marshmallows. Has to be a combination of the two. Go and play. And some of the ideas that come through are amazing. And sometimes people pick through the kind of sensual nature of marshmallows and touch, kind of using marshmallows as the seats of the motorbikes. And sometimes it's the scent, sometimes it's the adventure, it's the journey. But kind of you kind of create that challenge that then brings people together in the spark, and then you feel the energy, the vibration lift and lift and lift, and you know that people just feel that there is more that's possible, and help them to hold that feeling. But yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because when we're in that space of creativity, or we're in that space of quiet, not I don't mean completely stopping all thought, because that's pretty much impossible unless you've been a monk since you were Tibetan monk since you were 3 years old, or a Buddhist monk since you were 3 years old. When you have that space and that quiet, however that comes to you, that's where all these ideas can come, and collaboration, like you say, working with a team or working with a couple of people or one other person creates that spark and that engagement and that play.
Yeah.
And you said about having a sense of adventure. I think it's really important as well, is to have that sense of curiosity. We've spoken about curiosity before, haven't we? And having that sense of curiosity. So rather than coming from a place of judgment or fear, you one of the really great words you can use is interesting. Isn't that interesting? So rather than judge somebody or something or yourself, well, isn't that interesting that that's how they reacted, or that's how I feel? Isn't it interesting that the way I behaved just then, or the way that person just behaved? So that's a really good way of taking away judgment. And again, when we're in judgment, it can become very overwhelming, and we're totally out of alignment when we're sitting in judgment. So being curious, being excited, focusing on the excitement more than focusing on the fear, and being excited about the possibility. Because when you start being excited about possibility, you'll start noticing that possibility, the synchronicities that lead you to that possibility. So you were talking earlier about noticing things when things are lining up and noticing the signs. Well, when things are in flow, when things are coming to you with ease, you know that you're in alignment. You're following a deeper purpose.
And in again, bringing this back to a day-to-day environment, in a workplace environment, being curious about what's going on in other people's lives, or being curious about other people's ideas or reactions. People open up when they have the opportunity to discuss their values. I've been in so many boards, the most powerful, influential people who don't really know each other, and yet we're asking them to invest the trust and sometimes the resources, multi-million-pound resources, just based on some letters or some meaningless elements there, when in fact partnerships become so much stronger when they've had the chance for people to build those relationships, to understand where that person is aligned to, what their values are, how they live that through. And so you often see this in terms of away days, and often you get a wry, kind of cynical, raised eyebrow about, oh, it's just a waste of time, or it's just a bunch of people going off on a jolly. But it's so important to understand, how those humans interact, kind of what their values are, because those will be injected in the environment, in the culture around them. Those help you to understand whether or not you're a match. And if you're not a match, then that's not necessarily a no-go area, but you understand and you respect and you can learn from those aspects. And again, that's curiosity that brings that about.
I love that. Yeah, I love that, being curious to know and find out about your colleagues and your employees or your bosses. Because you can totally see how that would have such a positive impact on a team.
Yeah.
And also to help understand their values, their strengths, their personality, how you would get the best of somebody else by knowing them and understanding them, and creates that compassion as well. And that, you can totally see how that would have such a wonderful impact on a team, on a business, in being more productive, all sorts of things. That's, love that. Because we don't, when I worked in the corporate world, there was always that, well, we don't know who our bosses are, really. They have no idea who we are.
Yeah.
So that would, I love that, Claire.
You can help it. And even if you're not in that large environment, we've got John Harvey joining us soon in terms of networking, and how networking gets a bad name, and it's because very often people turn up to networking as sell, as opposed to making a connection, as opposed to showing up as them, kind of being all that they are, good and bad, and seeing good and bad in other people, but taking time to invest in the relationships. And when you do, without an agenda, things start to happen. Things do come through.
And using social media the same way, LinkedIn the same way. And one of my words this year is connection, like deeper connection, and going deep rather than going wide, because I want to connect with my clients, or with potential clients, with people that are following me on a much deeper level. And I think this podcast allows us to do that as well, because of the conversations that we're having, the real conversations. And I think, we met through LinkedIn. And again, that was about alignment. Our values matched. We lined up with each other. And also another thing about alignment, when you're in alignment, you become a magnet. As I said before, I mentioned that things come to you with ease and flow. And that's because you're a magnet for it. You're at a frequency, your vibration, your feeling good energy is up here. So you become a magnet, and things get attracted to you. It's like attracts like. So when you're in alignment, when you're doing all those things of putting your vibration and how you feel as a priority, rather than I haven't got time for that, then things just come to you. That it's amazing, the conversations that you have with people, the people you meet, the things that happen, that are all in flow, and all we're talking about your purpose and your soul purpose. When you're on your path, on the path of most joy, and the path that you are meant to be, although there's thousands and thousands of paths that we can all take, that's one of the things that you know when you're on that path, because things just come to you. You are a magnet of amazing, wonderful things that happen to you constantly, consistently, and it lights you up.
Yeah, and kind of I mentioned earlier that I often use metaphors, and kind of posture for me is alignment, as I'm somewhere where you are. But one of the other metaphors is around a piano and the notes of a piano. And if a piano is untuned, it's not connected to where it's meant to be. It sounds quite off. It jars you because it's not quite there. So of course you can do that inner work. You can understand and then grow your alignment and tune that single piano chord, as it were. But as you start to live in that purpose, live in that value, you start to be open and trust others with your values as you share them, and you identify where other people are coming from. You attract more people through, and they're bringing their own instruments as well. So you have kind of just increases the beauty, the power of the work that you do together. When you trust that you can be you.
Yes, and I think that's a really good point. I love the analogy with the piano, it's brilliant. But yes, being your true self. And again, a lot of people struggle with who they truly are. And that's something that I help my clients to discover and unwrap all those layers that we put and the things, our belief systems and our patterns. But to get underneath that, to really understand who you truly are, then you are able to be who you are and not trying to fit in with everybody else, because we're all, whether we go through phases where we all try and fit in, especially at school and in a company as well. But the more you are yourself, the more you will attract like-minded people, like-minded souls, and the easier your life will be, the juicier the relationships will be, the connection and the bond that you have with these people. They are your soulmates, your fellow. And I don't mean soulmate as in a love soulmate. I just mean soulmate as in you are so like-minded. You have a really special bond and connection, and you can really grow and nurture and just love being in that relationship with that person, no matter whatever type of relationship it is. So that's a valid point, that you feel you're so in tune with who you are. Doesn't matter what other people's opinions are, you will attract the same like-minded people to you.
And a lot of the time we don't realize that we are conditioned, or that we're signing up to these rules, as Fisher calls them. They're B rules. I won't say them out loud. But it can be regulations, or kind of historic cultures, or historic norms. Kind of almost from generations or centuries before. Kind of some of these norms come through and then shape our paths. But it takes real courage to connect in with who you are, and then go, well, does that belief serve me or not? Because I don't need it. If I'm here, if I'm truly here where I'm meant to be, and that doesn't fit, do I need that, or am I stronger here? But that's a whole nother debate.
It is, yeah. And it's the same with relationships as well, isn't it? There comes to a point where, are we true, are we aligned, or can we be aligned? Can we have those conversations and see if our values match? And it could be any relationship, friendship, partner, work relationship. And it's okay to let go of that relationship if it doesn't match, if you're not a good fit. And we can, I helped a client recently. She'd known a friend since she was 5 years old, and things kept happening to create upset. And she was never, this friend wasn't very giving. She was a taker. And as they grew up, my client had sort of realized, but she felt that she was obligated, because they'd known each other since they were 5-6 years old. She felt obligated to continue that relationship. But what was interesting is things kept happening where they kept falling out, or there was big misunderstanding. And she finally realized, actually, her values are so different from mine. She's such a different, she's not the type of person that she used to be, or we've outgrown each other. We've gone different directions. And I helped her realize and understand, actually, well, then it is time to let go. Because you're holding on to something that is no longer serving either of you. Yeah. It's become toxic.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes that toxic feeling isn't always against the other person. It's more around a rejection of who you were in that relationship, or who you were in that group. Particularly if you've grown, if you've shifted and developed, you're no longer that person and that you were. And the group kind of pulls you back to being that person. So sometimes people feel feel a commitment to a group and reluctant to let go, and then also they don't like to think ill of other people. And it's almost like, well, it's not just you thinking ill of them, it's recognizing that you've grown and you no longer want to be the person that you were, and that's okay, that's fine to keep growing and moving forward.
So that's the opposite of alignment. And so alignment feels you're in flow, it lifts you up, you feel inspired, you're balanced, you might be excited, but you're not, and there might be some nerve-sighted stuff going on here because you're stepping out of comfort zones. When you're in alignment and you want to continue evolving, there is, when you step up to that next level, there is always that discomfort. So that discomfort does not necessarily mean that you're in alignment. It means that there might be some fear there because you're stepping into the unknown. So it's not always comfortable being in alignment. But for the most part, once you get over there and out of that comfort zone, it feels like flow. It feels like joy. It's energizing. You wake up excited to start your day. You can't wait to get on with your day. And as I said before, everything is just ease. There's so much ease and flow, and you're just following the next natural steps. That's what I think if you wanted to have a soul purpose, that's what following your soul purpose would feel like. That's what following your success that's in alignment with who you truly are would feel like. That's how you get to that place of abundance. Feeling, coming from gratitude, coming from love, having compassion. That's when and we are surrounded by abundance. We don't have to work for abundance, just saying. And that's another episode we're going to have.
So Jen, how can people take this further? I mean, we're talking in general terms, and very often you need to work individually with a person. How can people find out more about what you offer, what you do, how you can help them to discover that?
Thank you. So my clients are women, for sure. They're usually at a crossroads in life, or on the cusp of change, or transitioning through change. They may feel stuck, a little bit lost and confused, but they know one thing: they want things to be better. They want to have more freedom, more fulfillment, more flow, more fun. They want to be in alignment. They want to connect with who they truly are, and they just want to have more ease and flow in their lives. So I'm offering a really powerful coaching session, and I'm gifting it to our listeners. It's usually valued at $250, and it will really help. So my focus for you on that coaching call is, one, to discover what is it that you truly want. So how are you, to help you uncover and explore what you truly want, so you'll gain some really crystal clear clarity around that. You'll also experience a future vision and activation to help activate what you want, and that's incredibly powerful. We'll discover some of the hidden blocks and some of the negative belief systems that are holding you back, and you'll experience some really powerful transformation pattern guidance to help you release some of those negative patterns as well, and explore your next steps to your dreams, your aspirations and goals. And I promise you will feel uplifted and inspired and energized. This is not a sales call. I will, of course, give you options if you wanted to work with me further. but there is no pushing. This is about getting to know you, helping you gain that clarity, and help inspire and energize and uplift you so you could take the next steps. So yes, that's my offer, and you can click on the link in this link. Click on my click on the link underneath the podcast. And Claire, I think you have something quite juicy to offer as well.
Well, I think we both tackle the topic in similar but distinct ways, actually. And I work with leaders, particularly women leaders, and especially women in technology, and help them to grow and become more successful in their work, and also in terms of the impact of the broader team. For me, a leader never operates in isolation, always kind of works within a team environment. So the more that I can help leaders to understand that how much they bring of themselves to work and how they can turn up as their best self, the more that I can help lift the whole team. So similarly, I have the opportunity of working directly and starting to unpick what might be going on for the individual in terms of their leadership style or in terms of their business. But perhaps more pragmatic, I'd like to include a gift, which is a purpose and values workbook. So it's a very simple set of tools that you can use. It includes a questionnaire that I use regularly to identify your values, just to see what resonates with you and start to explore that. So I'll include that as a giveaway, because if it helps people to explore that and understand where they're going, particularly at the moment. I haven't heard the words Great Resignation just yet. At the moment, it's only January the 5th as we do the recording. But I think at the moment there are so many people who are looking for that and trying to understand what alignment is. So some practical questions they can ask of themselves as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. Marvellous.
So
yeah, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Is that a wrap? Is that a wrap?
So in terms of this episode, I think we've covered so many different aspects, both in life and in work, and how how alignment looks and feels, and how you can start to explore it, and perhaps how you can start to trust that it's there, how you can start to appreciate that it's there. All of these little gifts, all of these little pieces of advice, I hope help you to see how much power and choice you already have to shape your world and help you grow. There's definitely a lot in our conversation, and in terms of what we've covered today. So listen again. Like, share,
make notes. make notes. Yeah. Yes, I love what you said about that we have a choice, that we always have a choice. We can choose to be in alignment and to focus on what works for us and following that, our values, love, compassion, kindness, or we can choose to be in fear and judgment and keep those protective layers up and try and stay safe.
Yeah.
I choose alignment.
Yeah, for sure.
I choose ease and flow.
And then coming up, we've got some amazing interviews in season 2. We continue the theme around alignment and growth, with some very practical inputs from many of our guests. So season 2, we have started with a bang.
Yes. Yes. I'm sure.
So until next time, take care to all of our listeners. Keep spreading the word. Hope you enjoy the content today. If there are any particular elements that you enjoyed, pull them through in the comments. Make sure you share this episode. Watch on YouTube if you want to see Enzo the puppy's growing, as well as the energy that bounces off between us. So we've launched on YouTube in terms of the video podcast as well as the audio podcast, wherever you do subscribe to your podcast. Keep liking and sharing, and join us, importantly, for the next episode, Jen, that you're leading. Is there anything extra you want to say about the next episode?
Yes. Well, Jennifer Huff is incredible. You'll find out more about her on the episode, but if you're interested in going deeper as to who you really are, if you're interested in our multidimensional superpowers and our multidimensional DNA and superpowers, and we all have them. She's an expert at bridging the science and the spirituality and the mystic together. It's I use juicy in this conversation, but it is a really powerful and juicy episode. So I can't wait for that to be published, and that will be our next episode. So please tune in.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. Thank you so much for listening. To all our listeners.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your comments and feedback. And if you've enjoyed it, please click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and feel free to share. Join us for our next episode of the Exponential Potential Podcast. Ignite your potential and thrive in times of great change.